Hi there. It's Monte, and I've decided that I want to make a killer tier list. Now I've had discussions on stream with my friends on where I think killers should be ranked, but I've never been able to properly put it all together, and I want to now. Essentially, how I'm gonna rank each of these killers is based on their powers and based on their adept set of perks. Because you know me, I'm a big fan of achievements. I've liked doing the adept challenges for each of these killers, especially on stream and with my videos on the Etnol channel. But yeah, so that's how I'm gonna rank it. As you can see, there's S tier, be like top of the top, A tier, which is pretty good, but not best of the best. B, C, D, commercial average, but around about there. E is like below average, and F is pretty rank. But yeah, I'm not really gonna base this off how I play the killers exactly, because I'm not the best with some of them, so I don't want that to cloud judgment on how I view these killers. I just want to do it basically with as little bias as possible, I guess, if that's the right way to put it. Obviously, there is going to be bias. This is my opinion, and people are definitely going to disagree with where I rank some of these killers. But yeah, I guess we'll get started. So Trapper, as you can see here, that's the first one we're going to be putting on. I'm going to put him teetering at D. His power is setting up traps, and that can take time to set up properly. Obviously, it can snowball if you place traps well and you zone well, but the setup can sometimes not be worth it. Now his perks, agitation, unnerving presence, and brutal strength are okay. They're all like, brutal strength helps with like mowing through some parts. Agitation helps if you want to do a basement build, helps with those, but that's not exactly what we're looking at here. Unnerving presence, I guess, can affect skill checks from further away if you're worried about a gem popping. The skill checks get smaller. That's pretty neat. But yeah, I'd say he's around there. He's teetering around there. I wouldn't say he's a strong killer. I'd say he's a bit outdated. Having the little buff of carrying extra trap helps a tiny bit. But yeah, he's a bit of an architect of old DBD that doesn't really fit in now. Next one, Wraith. So he's got the ability to go invisible and get a big speed boost when going invisible. Obviously, the downside of that is you can't hit people while invisible. But I'd say he's one of the easiest killers to play, IMO. Because the speed boost while uncloaking helps a lot. He's very basic, he's got high map mobility. But outside of the invisibility, he's a basic M1. I'd put him here. I'd put him here around middle. He's got his perks, his perks aren't that great. But yeah, like those perks being Predator and Bloodhound, I never really see them on other killers. I sometimes see Shadowborn, but that's mostly for the FOV increase. So I'd say his perks do very little adding on to his power. But if you were to run that, like, you'd be mostly relying on the invisibility with occasionally maybe like the brighter scratch marks or whatever. Or tighter scratch marks, I think that's what Bloodhound does. Well, the next one's Hillbilly. Once again, I feel like he's an architect of old DBD, but feels a bit outdated at times. The overheat mechanic does him no good now. I'd put him... This might be a tiny bit controversial. I'd put him below Trapper. Obviously, the one hit shot, the chainsaw is very good, and good Billy players are a menace. But again, Lightborn, obviously, if you see a lot of flashlights, you could potentially use that. if you're not great with like zoning out. But I feel like it can be a waste of a perk slot. Enduring, again, there's not much on its own. I guess it gives you a little quicker fucking shit when you're when you get stunned, but like it's not really, again, not really worth a perk slot. Obviously, Tinker is pretty good, and he's borderline meta. I think it's meta. A lot of people use Tinkerer. What I'm saying, very good at having that undetectable effect. But yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say again his perks are the greatest. Like, I mean, Tinker is pretty good, but Lightborn and Enduring merit on their own. I think his biggest quality is his one shot with the chainsaw, but again, if you get an indoor map, it's very difficult to play him. Nurse. Now, Nurse, best cure in the game. The ability to blink gives her great map mobility, and she has very good perks as well. Fanatophobia, very good. It's like slowing down heals and shit like that. Strider, good at the hearing stuff clearer. Nurses, which is you can see people healing. Obviously, I'm not good with her. I know a lot of people aren't good with her, but a good nurse, like with her ability to set like that, it's a very difficult game if you verse a good nurse. Very difficult. Now, Myers. I'm going to put him, controversial. I actually view Myers weakest killer base kit. Obviously, his stalking takes some time, but he's a very slow killer. And obviously, play with your food and save the best for last do get used. I have seen them being used on killers a fair amount. Dying Light almost nerfs the killer and really buffs the obsession, and I think that works against you. When going for his adept, you have to play around the obsession if you want to play optimally. That can help later on, but like it's, again, like I think his adept perks make it pretty difficult to play with. And obviously, I think, well, play with your food and there's the best for last get uses. They're not meta. Like, you don't really see them too much about. They have like uses in specific builds, but I wouldn't say it helps him too much when just base kit Myers with his basic perks, no add-ons. Because if you add his eerie add-ons on, it's a whole different story. But this is my opinion. I consider him like that base kit with his adept perks worst cure in the game. That might be very controversial, but that's how I view it. It doesn't help that he's fucking, again, an architect of old DBD. I think a lot of the old DBD killers suffer from, suffer compared to new DBD perks and shit like that, and powers. Now the next one is Hag. Obviously, without add-ons, her ability to teleport around from a certain distance is very good. And the traps, you can zone, you hold a free gen very effectively with a good Hag. I've seen good Hag mains hold gens down very well. Her perks are all hexes: Third Seal, Devour Hope, and Ruin. Obviously, Devour Hope and Ruin, very strong. And Third Seal, pretty good. Third Seal is pretty solid. I think her perks are very good, very solid. Obviously, with Devour Hope, you don't want to be mooring when you're going for adepts, but if you just want to play base kit Hag, she's got some strong perks. Obviously, it is a bit RNG, because if there's bad Titan spawns, it's sort of cooked. But nevertheless, pretty fun killer to play from experience as well. I'd put her A tier. She's an old killer, but she hasn't suffered, and I think the Ruin rework, while some would say it's a nerf, I'd almost say it's a buff, because it affects more competent players because now the gens regress when they get off them instead of just skill checks. I think that works to a certain extent. And also Devour Hope, if you get the ball rolling on that, can be pretty deadly. She's also very good at getting a snowball going. So yeah, base kit Hag, pretty high up there. Now Doctor that was a strange one. He can be pretty he's a pretty weird killer to rank IMO. His power is very, I think, is solid. Makes him, it's a solid map pressure you can apply with overcharge as well if you kick gens. Monitor and abuse and overwhelming presence don't do too much on their own, I guess. But they're okay, but I don't really see them much outside of Doctors. Yeah, I guess he's mostly reliant on his stack blast, like that. Having like that increases terror radius helps with that, but again, that's not what we're talking about too much. Again, I think I haven't actually really thought about where I place Doctor. I'm gonna place him ID. Place him ID. That might be controversial. I think that's where he is. Around about IMO I put him. I wouldn't say he's a completely strong killer. I don't really think he's a strong killer at all. Now Huntress. A ranged killer. Her hatchets, good Huntress mains, very difficult to face. He's also the most played killer in the game. I think for good reason. However, Beast of Prey, Territory Imperative, not great perks. Huntress Lullaby definitely has its uses, and I've seen it used well in skill check builds. But yeah, her ability to, like base kit, the ability to have hatchets and use them well is very like important for success. There's a purely M1 Huntress is gonna struggle unless you have good add-ons. I put a B. She's very strong. I think she's strong. Her perks pull her down a tiny bit, I reckon. Tiny bit. High B, high B. Maybe low A. Roundabouts. Just because her map ability isn't the greatest. That can be changed with add-ons, but we're not talking about add-ons here. We're just talking about perks and her power. That's where I'm ranking him. Now, onto Bubba. Obviously, the meme around him, he's pretty good to camp with. But when you are going for the Adept, don't camp. It's not good for your emblems, and you need the emblems to be good for to get the double pip. Again, his power, the chainsaw, it's a lot easier to use than hillbillies. It's and his perks, barbecue chili, obviously staple, meta, good for blood points, good for map awareness, good info perk. Knockout, it's okay. I mean, if you slug someone for a bit, they can't see their slug saliva. It works out like that. So I'm gonna put him C tier. He's better than hillbilly. I'd suggest. He's got okay map pressure. Franklin's helps with the M1s. If you need the M1 and the team's running a lot of items, you can fuck with them by doing that. But yeah, I'd put him around there. Now, Nightmare. None of his perks exactly work with Adepting, as they're all endgame perks. Like Fire Up, you get stronger as the game goes along. Remember Me and Blood Warden are purely endgame perks. I know when I went to Adept him, that wasn't much use at all. The snares are pretty good though. Snares are solid. He can drag out games, not as much as he used to with Forever Freddy, which I never faced because I never played DVD before then. But he's pretty, I think he's okay. He's not a particularly interesting killer to face. I wouldn't say he's particularly strong either. I'd put him C tier. I'd put him ahead of Bubba. But I think Wraith is a more solid killer to play. He's got good map pressure by Up on the gens but you need the. But once again, I don't know. He's got good reach with his claws. I think putting him C tier is pretty solid. He's not particularly interesting to play, and his perks particularly aren't good for adepting. But yeah, that's where I'd put it at. Now Pig. Well, Hangman's Trick is a meh perk. Make Your Choice is alright. If you need to go for the unhooker, I guess it encourages going for the unhooker, so it encourages healthy gameplay. Fucking Surveillance is a good gen info perk. It can tell you if someone's gone back to a gen that you've kicked, like damaged. I will say though, outside of inbuilt slowdown with the RPTs, like reverse bear traps, purely M1. Like you can pretty much play without needing to use the dash. I don't think a dash is particularly that great. It's not great stealth. It's probably the weakest stealth power in the game. I wouldn't say she's a completely bad killer because the RNG with the boxes and the reverse bear traps can apply much needed pressure if you're adepting. However, you don't exactly want them to go off as much. You don't really want to pressure a survivor and take them completely off. You're going for an adept, but you can. I mean, it's not really optimal gameplay, I'd say. Optimal gameplay is going for the people without the bear traps if you find them. But it can work either way. I'll put a E tier. I reckon he fills out that section. Weekend 1 killer. Relies a lot on RNG, I reckon. Her perks aren't immediately strong, but they're okay. Make Your Choice and Surveillance I've seen on like specific builds. Again, it's always cool to see those types of perks around. Hangman's Trick I've never actually seen on anyone but a pig. I don't really think it's a fantastic perk. But yeah. Now Clown. Clown. Bamboozle and Pop. Pop's a pretty good perk. You just need to make sure you hook someone and then go find the nearest gen. You can apply some serious pressure with Pop in a free gen situation. Bamboozle's alright if you want to completely cut off a strong loop. If you're in a chase and you just vault, that's very good for that. Chorophobia, I've seen some like anti-healing builds. Again, it's an okay perk, but you need to be near the survivors while healing. I'd say purely the bottles are alright, but again, they're not particularly strong. Speed bottles, you should mostly make sure that the survivor can't get to them. You put them on like down at your feet and shit. That can create a good balance there. Again, he's mostly an M1 killer with a fairly weak power. I don't know how controversial this is. I know it's a meme in our group to call Clown top 5. I actually think he's closer to bottom 5. He's better than Myers, obviously. But I'd say I actually prefer playing Pig. Playing as Pig versus playing as Clown. That again might be a controversial opinion, but that's how I'll put it. Now, Spirit. Now she's top 3 killer in the game. Start off with. That phasing power, invert's copped a slight nerf. Still very strong. Her perks. Haunted Grounds. If you ever see a spirit a hex totem, you always know it's going to be Haunted Grounds. Won't stop me from cleansing it, as Sam would detest, but if it glows, it goes. Rancor, be spooky. Be spooky if you're in the obsession. I never really see it, but again, it's a Mori, so you can't really use it if you're going for the adepts. But if you want to run it in a build, like to keep people exposed, it can work. Again, I think Spirit Fury very solid if you want to eat a few pellets. This works with enduring, but that's not what we're going to talk about. But it's again, I think this is a killer that's mostly mostly carried by her power in terms of this type of discussion. Like Haunted Grounds is solid if you can get some use out of it in turn a game, get a snowball going if it's cleansed at the right time. She's a fairly fun killer to play, fairly strong killer to play. I don't think people get as mad now since she got nerfed, even though I don't think the nerf is very minuscule. So yeah, that was that Spirit. I think top 3 killer in the game, S tier. Now Legion, Mad Grip. I always love seeing a killer run Mad Grip in a build, but again, it's not a particularly strong perk. Iron Maiden, I wouldn't say it's particularly strong on Legion either, but you know, it's a solid perk. A lot of Huntresses and Tricksters use it. With a lot of experience. Very good on them, obviously, though, because they reload. Discordance is his strongest perk. But yeah, his Frenzy power, outside of that, once again, he's an M1 killer, but the Frenzy gives him a bit of map mobility if you can use it right. If you can get if you can get a lot of people with your Frenzy power, keep him in the loop of healing. The boom meta sort of does weaken him. Again, he's a M1 killer, mostly. And his perks, I mean, Iron Maiden gives you a bit of exposed value. Mad Grip, if they're trying to be altruistic, you can get a few hits in. Pretty good. But yeah, outside of that, I'd say he's on the lower end. I heard he's getting a rework that might make him a tiny bit stronger. I'd say I'd put him E tier. But he's a fun killer to play, I will say. He and Pig, like Legion and Pig, pretty fun killers to play, but they're obviously on the weaker side. Now, Plague. Corrupt, very strong perk. Dark Devotion, okay. Infectious Strike will tell you if someone's nearby. So I guess her perks are solid. Corrupt obviously carries that. Her power, I know she now starts with 1 vial like Corrupt Purge, but I think good teams tend to not really cleanse as often against a Plague. It sort of nullifies her ability, but it does all make him 1 hit as a consequence. I'd say she's solid. Like, she doesn't get too much use. Her Adept is pretty hard because if a team doesn't cleanse as often, you're not really going to get a strong Chaser emblem. I got mine because I am 1 quite a bit. Well, I didn't really, and they cleansed a bit, so you didn't stay 1 hit. But yeah, she's solid. I'd actually put her. Is this gonna be controversial? I'd put her B tier. I put her ahead of Wraith, but not as good as Huntress. She's up there though. Solid killer. I think a unique power. For the vomiting, it's a bit of a range as well. The perks, okay. Corrupt carries. Once again, her power can be slightly nullified by good survivor teams, so just don't cleanse it straight away. Yeah. Now, Ghostface. Outside of his stealth ability, that can make people exposed, a bit like Myers, but it's more targeted towards 1 person. Or Myers will just go tier 3, down people. I say Ghostface is better than Myers. I main him as a killer. I play him as a killer. I have good fun playing him, but I will say he is definitely on the weaker side. When he's not in stealth, he's purely M1, and I think M1 killers are always going to trend down below, unless you're Wraith. I think Wraith is the easiest and like M1 killer to play. Okay. How do I rank him? Obviously, the exposed power. If you can get nice sneaks up on people, then you can get a bit of snowball going once again. I'm All Ears is a good info perk, very solid, underrated. Furtive Trace definitely sucks, even though I got a buff, still sucks. Fucking Feeling Tremors is a good info and gen slowdown perk. You can note which gens haven't been blocked, and that helps you know where to go after you unhook someone. I'd say he's got better perks than Legion and Pig, but I wouldn't say he's pretty anywhere near strong. So I'd put him E tier. I don't know how controversial this is gonna be. Hopefully, I don't cause a fucking shit fight. This is again my opinion. Now, Demogorgon. Obviously, his perks have been renamed. Now that Stranger Things is no longer a proper license in DVD. But I think they're all pretty solid. Fearmonger or Mindbreaker, fairly still commonly used perk. Now, especially now it's free. You'll see a lot of killers will put that on. It stop people from using their exhaustion perks if they catch them at a gen. I think Krill Limits is Claustrophobia now. I guess that's still pretty solid. And Virgil Jolt, if you are near someone doing a gen, that can provide some slowdown. As I said, he's got good map ability, he's got a good tread power, his M1's alright as well. I'd say he's fairly up there. I put him ahead of Huntress. That might be controversial, but I feel like but a good Huntress is a pretty cracked. Huntress has got that range power. It's very close between these two, I reckon. I'd say he's probably about as close to as balanced as a killer is in DVD. I'd say, base kit. Now only Zanshin is essentially killer's windows of opportunity. I guess solid if you know where survivor's trying to take you. You can maybe zone them better, try and zone them out of that area. Blood Echo can be pretty strong. You have a team that uses there's all dead hard, so you can keep them from using dead hard or overcome or whatever the fuck they're running, bounce landing, that bullshit. Nemesis, I guess if you're, I wouldn't say Nemesis is a strong perk. It's pretty funny to see in Nemesis using Nemesis. But I guess I don't really know. Fucking again, that's not really what I'm talking about. His power, if you start off as an M1, but once you get enough blood orbs from the injuring survivors, you can go to Demon Dash. I don't exactly know how to use that power myself, but I've seen good Onis fucking snowball that shit once they get their Demon Dash, and it can change games pretty quickly. And with his base perks being pretty solid outside Nemesis, it has its use. I'd say Oni is controversially, I'll put him. Now, if this gets any views, I'm fully expecting some people to pick fights here. Again, I will stress, this is my opinion. This is how I'm viewing killers off their powers and their basic perks. Not like Ruin, Undying, Tinkerer, Blight, or shit like that. Fucking, if I'm talking about Blight, it'd be Blood Favor, Undying, and Dragon's Grip, along with his power. But yeah, Death Slinger. I recently started playing it again, pre-nerf. I only played him once, I played post-nerf. I played him once pre-nerf. I didn't have a good time, but I had a good time playing him post-nerf. I wouldn't say he's particularly strong. Again, he is a ranged killer with very little map mobility, and he doesn't have the jump scare aspect anymore going to him. Got a larger terror radius, slight nerf on his aim down sights. But yeah, the buff to Dead Man Switch makes him a lot stronger now. a lot stronger. I played with that Dead Man Switch was fucking carrying me in that Adept. That makes my map mobility. It sort of makes up for my lack of map mobility. It was like carrying that hard. I didn't know if I got much use out of Gearhead, but I guess Gearhead's okay. I would say it's a big perk. Dead Man Switch pretty much does carry him. Hex Retribution is solid when someone conjures it. You see all the auras. That helps me. Know for experience. Again, I say Dead Man Switch definitely does carry Death Slinger. It'd be pretty low without the Dead Man Switch buff. Like if you did pretty Dead Man Switch buff, I'd put him like almost like here. You go C tier ahead of Wraith, I reckon. That might be controversial itself, dude. I'm fully expecting fucking this shit to be the most controversial video ever made at this point now. I had a DVD community is like they're gonna fucking flame me for some of these choices. Pyramid Head. His power, very fucking strong. I'd put him here, A tier. His power, you can ignore DS, you can ignore all those shit. You can Mori people if they're on the final hook state, but you know, again, you're going for the adepts. Trade-off Torment, Force Penance, solid perks, I would say amazing. I'd say Deathbound is okay. I wouldn't say his perks are particularly strong. But again, he's carried through his power, the ability to ignore hooks, ignore DS, that type of shit. Put people in cages. If played white, makes him fairly strong. Does make him a killer you can play fairly dirty with, like just naturally. A bit like the twins, but yeah, he's pretty high up for that for his power. I'd say Blowhag though, because he doesn't have the amazing bat mobility that sort of makes up for it. Now Blight, second best killer in the game. Again, his ability to go around the map at super speeds with his like rush is pretty insane. I'm not very good at it, but you know, I've seen some cracked Blights pull some crazy shit off, like you know, the flicks and shit. Again, his perks, Hex Blood Favor, underrated I'd say as a Hex perk. Fairly solid. Undying, staple now in the meta. If you want to run Ruin. Even maybe Devour Hope, you can do Devour Hope Undying. Haunted Grounds Undying is an underrated perk combo. Get that to proc twice. Fucking... What else? Dragon's Grip. Get some value out of that. You can keep people off generators by using that perk. But yeah, I'd say it's solid. It's solid. Obviously, again, he's carried by his power, but Blood Flavor and Undying is fairly strong in itself. Now, twins. I'd say the ability to play Victor is a nice switch up, but if you just play as Charlotte, he is an M1. Order and Coup de Grace are okay, but very niche perks. Like very niche. I wouldn't say they're like strong or anything, they don't really help much in situations. Hoarder may give you a bit of info. Coup de Grace may get you a extra hit here and there, but it's also very easy to accidentally use tokens when you don't want to. Depression is a very solid gen slowdown perk. You know, you can make multiple gens regress at once. But again, you know, I wouldn't say she's a particularly strong killer. Apparently she's a monster at high MMR, but I'd say she's amazing, you know. Also a good twins player you're gonna have a difficult time with, especially with Victor. But yeah, fucking crazy, innit? I'm gonna put a... I think she's stronger than Pig? Stronger than Legion? Maybe? Yeah, I'm gonna say stronger than Legion. They're E tier. I'll put her around there. She's very clunky still. I know they've sort of fixed it up. She was very buggy at release, but she's still pretty clunky. The slowdown between her and Charlotte makes slugging, and also the ability to leave a husk near a hook, technically camp without really camping. Again, like a bit like what I said, Pyramid Head, you can play dirty naturally by playing her. But yeah, I wouldn't say she's particularly amazing to play as, but you know, she's okay. As you'll see, I have a video out by the time I've dropped this where I played twins for the first time in a custom match. A very unique set of perks, obviously. Fuck around. And I win. But yeah, it's mostly because I get a nice little snowball with Victor. Victor's the strongest part of her kit. You can move around really fast, you can get the grabs. If they're injured, you can get downs. Just the unfortunate nature of a boom meta. She'd be fairly strong at hit and run, or like slugging, but the boom meta sort of hurts against her. If a team was like some fun reason running exponential, then she'd be pretty bad because you'd struggle to get to her in time, get to the people slugged in time. Trickster, Starstruck, very solid perk. Next crowd control, solid I guess. It's pretty solid. Fucking No Way Out is a staple in endgame builds. No Way Out's probably, I'd say, actually his strongest perk. Very good perk to rely back on because he's actually fairly weak in map mobility. Very strong in chase, a bit like Death Slayer. Death Slayer is very strong in chase, but a Deadman Switch buff makes him a stronger killer than that. But yeah, I'd say if you lose a couple chases as Trickster, you're in trouble. Like, you need to be winning chases as Trickster. There's some, like, his knives make him a good proximity camper, but not really talking about camping, otherwise a bit high. Talking about just, you know, in terms of powers and adept perks and shit like that. Fucking yeah, so Trickster very good in chase in the 1v1 sector, not so great in the 1v4. Starstruck, I guess, stops teams from being overly altruistic. They don't want to get all one shot. They can get a snowball going. Fucking what else? No Way Out, again, very strong endgame perk. Crowd control's okay hex. It's not strongest, it's like very it's like close to the bottom sector of hex perks, but yeah, I guess it's okay if you're getting your asses looped and it's still up. Yeah, I'd put him D tier. Ahead of Trapper. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's particularly strong. And then was this Lethal Pursuer, very strong perk at the start to allow you to be aggressive straight away. Eruption and Hysteria are okay. Eruption is better used in like general slowdown builds and shit like that. Hysteria's hard. I guess you can get some sneak ups on that. His power, the Tentacle Whip, if you get a few hits early, always helps. The faster you get your mutation rate, the better. The zombies are very RNG dependent. Sometimes they'll help, sometimes they won't. But that's really dependent on the game you're having. Yeah, he's a bit like Pig. He's got some RNG dependent shit, but you know, he's actually middle of the pack. I'd put him D tier. Could even put him a bit higher actually. Might put him middle here. I actually think, yeah, he's fairly fun to play as. I don't know if he's still got some bugs with him, like the hitting and shit like that. I know his tentacle power is pretty fun to use. But you can throw out an M1 because a lot of survivors expect you to use tentacle every time to try and get your mutation rate up. But you can put some pressure on the infections and shit. Now, Pinhead. Quintessential Noob Stomper. Plaything, very strong perk. Fucking allows you to keep survivors oblivious and make them cleanse hexes. Not so good to use with any other hex perk. Of course, I've seen fucking Pinheads use Plaything and Noed, but because of Plaything, all the totems get done, so they never get fucking Noed. I saw it once and I was like, why did you run plaything in nowhere, bro? It was never gonna work. But yeah, plaything's alright. The Scourge Hook, definitely the weakest one of the three. I know with the Onryo coming, definitely the weakest one by a mile. Deadlock, I guess another gen slowdown perk. Realize how many there fucking are. Holy shit! It's okay. It's a less commonly used one that I've seen, but you know, it's okay. Blocks the gen with the most progress. Have to get one, whatever. But yeah, I'd say his power, his chain power is pretty impressive. If you get the box, it's pretty impressive against weak teams that, like weak solo teams that don't coordinate. It can be pretty difficult to play. I put him B tier actually. I put him behind Demo, ahead of Plague. Put him about there. Now this one, I think the artist, the high mobility killer at 115 movement speed. He's got good range, throws, and she's got good perks. From Embrace, I reckon is very underrated. A Hex Pentimento, never going to get to 5 stacks. Like 5 stacks is going to be very, very rare. But even if you consistently have like 1 or 2 stacks, maybe at the start, if people break some totems, that's just some good slowdown that you have. As I've noticed while playing against her, that as soon as you realize she has Pentimento, you sort of like you break the Pentimento totems and then you go back to playing the game and she loses that ability. But yeah, Pentimento is okay. I guess it's run better with play theme, but again, with the adept perks, it's not that great. The Scourge Hook, Pain Resonance, definitely the strongest perk. Again, Grim Embrace would definitely have its uses. It again encourages you to hook everyone once, which I think promotes better gameplay. And can be pretty annoying in a certain situation. It actually won me my Adept Artist game race. It slows down like people for ages. They can't do any gens. 30-40 seconds. Again, high mobility killer, good range, be very oppressive. Like a fucking like Pinhead can be very impressive, but I reckon she's better than Pinhead. I'd say she's not ahead of Nurse, Blight, or Spirit, but she's better than Hag. I could either put a low S or high A. I'm gonna put a high A. There you have it. If you think my current opinions on the Onryo is, I think she's going to be somewhere between B and C. Maybe ahead of Deathslinger, maybe behind Deathslinger, the Wraith. Obviously, I could see some people having some reservations about some of my choices where I put them. But again, I'm not talking about like Ruin and Dying Tinkerer, full meta builds like Barbecue, that type of shit. I'm talking about their powers and their adept perks when I'm rating them, and that's how I put them there. Obviously, some killers are carried by their powers, some killers are carried by their perks. In here, like in terms of their rankings here. But yeah, if you have any digressions, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with you commenting about that. I'm interested in a discussion. This is where I place my the killers on tier list at the moment. I think the Onryo will be somewhere between B and C. I reckon when she comes out, she might get a slight buff, and if so, she'll probably be like B. But yeah, I think that's how I'd rate all the killers so far that are out in the game. Now I can finally have something that I can address to when I'm talking to my friends, because this is where I put them around. But yeah, that was one day. This is the tier list that I made for the killers in Dead by Daylight. If you liked that, subscribe, like, comment. Again, I'm down for a discussion. Down if you disagree. I want to hear where you'd place these killers off their powers and their specific perks. How I'm rating it. And yeah, we're vibing.